begin by thanking Chairman Rubio and Chairman Smith and members of the Congressional Executive Commission on China for convening this very important hearing. I also want to recognize our outstanding staff, Elise Anderson, Paul Kodak, and Scott Flipsy, with some of the best staffers I've ever worked with up here. I also want to thank and recognize Minority Leader Pelosi, who I'm pleased to join here today for her long-standing support for Chinese dissidents and the people of Tibet, and for her leadership during the annual debate surrounding most favored nation trade status for China. We both vigorously opposed granting PN normal trade relations with NMFN absent preconditions. I wish our concerns had not been borne out, but as today's hearings will no doubt explore, the proponents of this approach can hardly claim that China today is more free or less repressive than it was 15 years ago. This is not centered or partisan issue, as we demonstrated in our efforts in the late 1990s. Our country is stronger and the dissidents worldwide are bolstered when both parties, Republican and Democrat, and their leadership take the principled stand for human rights and religious freedom. Evidence continues to show that the government of China has leveraged the wealth and economic growth that accompanied WTO accession to become more corrupt, more repressive, and more dangerous than any time in modern history. China has become increasingly belligerent and hostile in its actions in its friendly islands to disrupt peaceful navigation of the seas, has led a campaign of unprecedented cyber attacks against the U.S. government, including members of Congress. They stripped my computer, a number of other members. They took everything off of their computer, and American companies. I used to see the list of what companies they were hitting that the Bureau would have, and every company was basically being hit. It's stunning how little we discussed the Chinese cyber attacks against OPM just 2 years ago that led to the most sensitive information about millions of Americans and their families being compromised, or their attacks on U.S. healthcare records and airline travel records, or the theft of intellectual property that has literally bankrupted American companies and costing us jobs. The American people and the U.S. government should be more outraged by these actions. Prior to the passage of PNTR in 2000, there was much debate in Congress and the media as to whether granting such status would help China become a more open and free society, leading to greater rights protection for its long-oppressed people and improvements in the law. It's interesting in retrospect that just 10 years after the world was shocked by the brutal crackdown against Tiananmen Square protesters with men, a young student, a tank man in front of the tank, a school of thought took root which argued for increased trade and economic ties as opposed to sanctions and a tough line. Wishful thinking superseded a genuine understanding of the Chinese Party's communist goals and objectives. The state of freedoms in China today, after so many trillions of dollars in wealth has been transferred to the small ruling class that controls the production, is well summarized in the most recent report by the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. They said during the past year, the Chinese government increased its targeting of human rights lawyers, dissidents, some of whom advocated for religious freedom or represented individuals of various beliefs. Authorities across China undertook a sweeping dragnet, rounding up lawyers and human rights defenders, including religious freedom advocates, and nearly 300 lawyers were arrested, detained, or disappeared. They continue to say many of these individuals came under government suspicion precisely because they chose to represent politically undesirable religious groups such as the Uyghurs Muslims or unregistered Christian leaders and members. Both the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church are being persecuted by the Chinese government, and also the Falun Gong. End of quote. Curiously glance at headlines for the past few weeks. Here's what the headline says. Uyghurs are told to confess political mistakes in mass meetings. Another headline. Tibetan pilgrim barred from Kirtri Monastery by Chinese police. It's almost, I went to Tibet, it's almost cultural genocide against the Tibetan people. Another headline. Christian rights lawyers tortured in China. Another one. Chinese Christians persecuted by the party's nationalism. Or there's the Washington Post piece, which I'm sure all of you read, for January 21st. It's painful to read, but the Chinese lawyer, Li Chunfu, who was imprisoned in secret detention for 500 days, brutally tortured, drugged, and since his release, the post that he's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He's not the same person. And the ABA has spoken out, and others, but very few people are saying anything. This is all experienced when he was in prison being held by the Chinese government. The irony is that due to the great wealth, the Speaker Pelosi mentioned the increased economic interconnectivity and international influence that China was able to achieve in the last 15 years, the U.S. has less leverage than it once did. However, it doesn't mean we can't and should not use every lever we have to address the egregious human rights violations. I want to close with some recommendations and actions that the Congress and administration can take this year to improve the situation. First, we need a more clear and unambiguous resolution to statements from this Congress and the Trump administration about our unwavering commitment to human rights, religious freedom, and the rule of law in China. Congress should immediately take action to rename the plaza in front of the Chinese embassy in honor of the imprisoned Nobel Peace Prize winner, Liu Xiaobo. He's a Nobel Prize winner. He's been in jail for 6 years. We did this before when we were up against the Russians. We Sakharov Plaza. Can you imagine if you were Xiaobo and your wife came in and said, Xiaobo, the Congress just named the plaza in front of the embassy? I'll tell you, this would get their attention, and I think this can be done very, very, very easy. The administration should also make full use of the new authorities granted under the Global Magnitsky Act to sanction and restrict the travel of Chinese government officials perpetrating these egregious acts. Read Gao Xing's latest book. He has the names of who's torturing him. We know who's involved in some of these activities. And given the immense demands to eliminate U.S. foreign assistance dollars, the Congress and the administration should ensure that any assets seized under this law involving Chinese authorities are spent on human rights and religious freedom. Second, much more can be done to fight Chinese internet censorship by putting pressure on agencies such as the BBG to increase the allocation of funds toward the programs that prioritize circumvention of the internet firewall. Congress has urged the BBG, Republican and Democrat, to do this, and yet they have not done it. I don't quite understand. And they've decreased the funding, and now this could work in China, in Iran, in Cuba, in Vietnam, in Africa, all over the world. So if we're serious about fighting censorship, our budget should reflect it. The Chinese government could not be more serious. They spend millions annually on fortifying the Chinese internet firewall. We must remain vigilant against efforts by the Chinese government and state-directed and owned companies to take advantage of the open nature of the U.S. system to inappropriately lobby and shape public opinion, such that human rights violations, censorship, and other troubled actions are effectively normalized or glossed over. Boy, the number of firms in this town that represent the Chinese government. I mean, I don't know how you go home at night and look at your kids and read about Li Chun-fu and then say, you know, I'm representing the Saudis who are putting radical Wahhabism, and I'm representing the Chinese who have Catholic bishops under house arrest, Protestant pastors bringing about cultural genocide in Tibet. By the way, they pay well. I always found this town, the more evil they are, the higher they pay. And they pay very, very good salaries. We have numerous examples, including a recent series of acquisitions of U.S. media companies that would effectively make them subject to state censorship rules in Beijing. Last fall, I wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post where I detailed these concerns and advocated for an update to the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFIUS, to better address the types of transactions that impact cybersecurity, sensitive financial services, and soft power. I'll tell you, there'll never be another movie 7 years in Tibet. This thing is not dealt with now. And Richard Gere can end his political career because they will never have another movie for Richard Gere in China. There'll never be 7 years in Tibet. And they're beginning to change the very stories in the movies. I also wrote the need to bolster the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA, to ensure that Chinese-funded public opinion and advocacy group efforts in the United States are being appropriately monitored and reported. The Confucius societies in many of these universities, if they're going to do it and allowed to do it, we ought to, at least the American people ought to know who they are. The Justice Department's Inspector General released a very important report last fall making recommendations on updates to the law, including closing a range of loopholes governments like China use to avoid disclosing their funding. In closing, I want to thank you for the hearing. While the U.S. government made a critical error, I believe in extending PNTR to China without real commitments and enforcement mechanisms on human rights and religious freedom, it's never, ever too late to redouble our efforts. We can commit anew to using all the economic, diplomatic, and security tools at our disposal to send a clear signal that America remains committed to the fundamental principles laid out in our founding documents. Documents which former President Reagan, my favorite President Reagan, said the words in the Constitution and Declaration of Independence were a covenant not only with the people in my hometown of Philly in 1776 and 1787 with the Constitution, but a covenant with a tank man, a covenant with a Buddhist monk and nun, a covenant with a Catholic bishop, a covenant with Lee Chun-Fu who's been tortured. So I believe that what you're doing here is very important. I believe we can reverse it. The American people are with us on this issue, and I just hope this commission can light a fire in this current Congress. Thanks for the hearing.
So do we, Congressman.